Welcome back to Here for the Common Game. Today we're going to do deck number 318, Isareth the Awakener. Now, he is a 3/3 Death Touch for 3, which is not bad. Now, that's whenever he attacks, you can pay X. When you do return target creature card from your to a CMC X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a corpse counter. There's no purpose to that corpse counter. If that creature would leave the battlefield, it is exiled instead of putting anywhere else. So you cannot bounce it back to your hand or keep recurring it. So this dude attacks. It takes some mana. You bring a dude back. Okay. By the way, I have little skull beads from years ago that I'm going to use as corpse counters. It's going to be great. So if you'll notice from the list on Tapped Out, there are 37 creatures in the deck. I tried to jam as many creatures in the deck as I absolutely could. I think 37 may be a little light. Really do. Now, even tried to do with, here, let's look at what we're going to call ramp-ish. Of course, I'm running the stuff like the Charcoal Diamond, Dark Ritual, and Bubbling Muck. Bubbling Muck, criminally underplayed. This is an amazing card. It's a black high tide. When you say black high tide, it gets people's attention, but Bubbling Muck, nobody seems to know, But even as far as dudes go, dude mana, Leaden Mirror, Plague Mirror, because, sometimes maybe that effect's going to matter. Kozilek's Channeler, Mannequin, because these are creatures in the Magus that provide mana. If they die, so what? I am running the Planeswalker deck Lily. She's not amazing. But if she lives a while, she's mainly in there for another card. Now, of course, we've got, let's get to some of our creatures. Now, these are obviously in no particular order. They are, I don't have them grouped like, a smart person would. But let's look at creatures, because I wanted creatures that do something. And we're going to start with Meteor Golem, since I don't think I've talked about him yet. When Meteor Golem enters the battlefield, destroy target enchantment or artifact. Because let's face it, black can kill anything else. And we need a way to reliably get rid of that, I don't know, whatever is bothering us that's an artifact or enchantment. But that got me to thinking about what I've always called the 1/8/7 creatures that started off with Necrotal back in Visions. It comes into play. It's not terribly powerful. For 4 mana, you kind of want something better, but 2/1 first strike that kills their, at the time, Sarah Angel was amazing. Then they give us, of course, Bone Shredder. Similar card, added the keyword Echo, which made you pay for it twice, which this is beautiful because it places itself in the graveyard for Isareth to bring back. And, of course, when it brings it back, it's going to pop another one, and that's it, because then it's going to get exiled because Isareth apparently doesn't have a problem using things twice, but he don't want to use them a third time. Dimir Houseguard. I'm showing that early because I really make a note of how many creatures. I didn't realize how many creatures we have or how many cards that we have that are at that 4 converted mana cost. Let's see. Oh, here's a Liliana card. I realize that's a stretch. Playing a Lily to make this have Death Touch, but a lot of times there's what I call the Planeswalker stigma, that Planeswalkers, especially Liliana's, because she has a reputation at the table, is that they don't let Planeswalkers live, so they act as kind of a couple of fogs, at least one. Save you from taking all that crazy damage. Let's see what else have we got. Of course, we have Ravenous Chupacabra, because why not? Deathbringer Regent. I even my mass removal, I try to use as much in creature form as possible. Um, Grave Waker. Now, naturally, we are putting cards into the graveyard, but this is bringing them back. And you know what? We ain't got to exile them at end of turn. So, Dark Hatchling's another 187 dude. Now, this is really expensive, but you get a 3/3 flyer out of it. So, Noxious Dragon, same cost, but does the reverse. And it's a 4/4, but you do it when it dies. Now, here again, mass removal in the form of Hythonia the Cruel. I need to get around to building her, but Mono Black Gorgon's just, I don't know. Wallbringer Demon. Sack a dude. Everybody. You know. But if they can't, you got to sacrifice this, which normally would upset you, and you'd be like, it's not too good a card. But that's fine, because it places itself in the graveyard for, Isareth to bring back later when they do. Now, Torgar, nothing says loving like take half. I want half, Eddie. And, he does eat 2 dudes, or 3 dudes, or however many dudes you want him to eat. Now, of course, Necroplasm. This is kind of board wipe-ish. I've always disliked the fact that this will never kill tokens, because it happens at the beginning of it checks at the beginning of the upkeep. Now, you played it, you're already past your upkeep, and then the next upkeep it's going to get the counter, so you're going to nuke the ones. It really, if it checked at end step, of course, then it would be a different card. But anyway, we have Sewer Nemesis. Yeah. Totally probably choosing ourselves, by the way, as the targeted player. Demon of Catastrophes. You got to sack a dude, but you know what? You get a 4/4 flyer, the Trampler, out of the deal. Let's switch into some sacrifice outlets. Of course, we have the Viscera Seer. That way, we can sack creatures to scry. Right? And, to filter them that way. We have an Nantuko Husk, which is you're just sacking a creature to give it +2/+2. Not terribly undifferent than the Fallen Angel. I apologize, these last two were, I'm getting down to where I'm having to use some of the foreign language cards now. Fallen Angel. Sack a creature, she gets +2/+1. Carrion Feeder. It gets a counter. I believe that's it for actual sacking. Oh, well, Zapalobolus is not repeatable sacking, but it is a sack outlet for one dude. Now, I'm liking gaining X life and drawing X cards where X is that creature's power. I don't have a problem sacking Torgar and getting him back. And yeah, just keep on keeping on. Now, Filth is a card that was one of the early cards in the deck simply because you want him to be in the yard to do what he does. And Swamp Walk, kind of a thing. No, I do not have an Urborg. This would be, if I had an Urborg, this is exactly where it would be. We got the Corpse Augur. Dies, you draw X cards, lose X life. X the number of creature cards in target player's graveyard. Now this, you may not want this to be you, because, woo, buddy, depending on when you get him, I mean, it could totally kill you. And that's not the plan. I am running Vampire Nighthawk just because it's a good dude. The same way, Vampire Nighthawk and Nightmare both are placeholders. For what? I'll know when I see them. Now, let's look at these guys. Merciless Executioner. Everybody sacks a dude when he comes into play. Does that sound familiar? Sounds an awful lot like Slum Reaper. Everybody sacks a dude. Which, of course, the very first one was Fleshbag Marauder. So we are putting lots and lots of creatures into the graveyard. Zulaport Cutthroat. When they die, bad stuff happens. So we're putting a lot of time and effort into let's put dudes into the yard so Isareth can bring them back. Now, that's a really good for the white. Wait a minute. It isn't, because it counts opponents' graveyards. So let's look at things to kill. Now, obviously, y'all see this detection tower here to gets rid of that nasty hexproof, because I'm running some removal up in here. Of course, we have our Doomblade, got to have it. Vraska's Contempt is for those nasty industrial things. And, of course, Planeswalkers that you don't ever want to see back. Diabolic Edict. Murder. I really like Siphon Flesh. What? There's nothing. Yeah. It's one of the better siphons. Innocent Blood. I ain't got a problem sacking a dude, because I'm going to get it back with my general, who's pretty cheap. We got Walk the Plane. Running Hex. Now, Hex is a risky card, because you have to have 6 targets. Have to. Even if some of them are yours, which in this deck, not that big a deal. Of course, Tendrils of Corruption. Decent removal spell. In Garrick's Wake, and of course, Tapped Out still does not recognize this. Ashes to Ashes. Now, Ashes to Ashes is an exile effect now, so it's not as amazing as when it was. Let's look at... We ain't got a ton of card draw, but we do have stuff like Read the Bones, Sign in Blood, Underworld Connections, and Unearth. I put Unearth in there because it does cycle in the event that you don't want this super ability for 1 mana. Okay. I got a few cards left. What is this? 8 cards. Liliana's Spoils. Let's pull back a little bit. Whoa. I'll perfect this one of these days, peeps. I'm just... Target opponent discards a card. Yeah. I like the fact that it's going to save a lot of time instead of just search your library. Victimize. I like Victimize because it's about the exact polar opposite of our general, but it does similar things. It's a 1 for 2. You sack a dude to get 2 dudes back, and that is quite outstanding. Now, Mortivore is the truth for this deck. Yeah, because we're killing stuff left and right. It's ours. Yeah, Isareth by default is going to, be taking some of them out, but Mortivore, he'd get in there. Bone Horde, kind of the equipment version of the same thing. Of course, Death Squared would be the Bone Horde on the Mortivore. Now, Stinkweed Imp, our last creature. If you just want to dump cards in your graveyard, there's kind of no better way to do it than the Stinkweed Imp. Now, if everything else fails, you can Living Death, which trades everything alive for everything dead for everybody. So, it's a big thing. Now, that's a last resort type deal, but still, you're probably going to be in the better shape of it. It is kind of a nombo with one of the later cards. Now, Zombie Infestation. Zombie Infestation can come down on turn 2. Well, 1 if you got the ritual. And you can just start dumping cards on turn 1, let's see. If you do turn 1, you drew a card, so you got 8. So there's a swamp, a ritual, and an infestation. So you've got 5 cards left. You can ditch 4. You get 2/2 zombies. Start beating. Of course, that's, if you don't care about anything in your hand, whatnot. But anyway, this is a bunch of cards that you can put into the graveyard. And our last card, of course, is Mortal Kombat. Because you know what? This was probably the first card I thought of when I read Isareth. I was like, wow, we want to put a lot of creatures in the graveyard. I have a funny Mortal Kombat story. My oldest son, we were playing I don't know, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. We were playing a big 6-7 player EDH game in the living room, and he's that quiet player who just sits over there and does his thing. And of course, that many players, he would play some dudes, and then somebody would board wipe, and he would just well, he really hasn't done it. He didn't attack. He didn't swing all game long. He played the Mortal Kombat. None of us realized it was a Mortal Kombat. Even when he said Mortal Kombat, he announced it, and we just overlooked him. It come back to his upkeep, and he said, untap, upkeep, I win. Blew us away. Epic. I'm sure everybody's got that Mortal Kombat story, but anyway, I like it. Be really cool if Mono Black had a take an extra turn card that wasn't like opponent choices, but oh well. I do appreciate you watching. We are getting mighty, mighty close to C18, and of course, as y'all can see, I've started to build Varchild there. Trying to pre-build as much as I can before actually get the hands on the cards, so that way I can start that day. I'll probably do. By the way, I realize this is we're at 17 minutes, but it's a little far in. What do y'all think about? I haven't really done a set review, and I know there's only about 70 or less new cards from C18. I kind of want to do a set review, card by card, in this format. But what do you think? Would anybody watch it? Is it worth the time? Because everybody's doing set reviews, but all the set reviews I've watched or listened to, nobody's going through every single card. Everybody's hitting the same 10 cards. And when I do that, do I do just the new cards or do I do the whole thing? My buddy Danny, Friday night when we were playing, I asked the group about it, and he looked at me and he said, if you're going to do a set review, do a set review. Anyway, so it's, I don't know, what is it, almost 300 cards? Anyway, I do appreciate y'all watching. Y'all let me know what you think. But right now, it's time to shuffle and cut.